So if we take a look at the chat, questions we have here from our friend NC Worker. Good afternoon to you as well. And NC Worker is asking a question. And I think that question pertains to, would it be advantageous to get an Agile Scrum Master certification first to help you take the PMP 7th edition? Absolutely not. There's absolutely no reason for you to do that. If it is something you want to do as one of your goals or objectives, then go ahead, But I'm one who doesn't like wasting time or money. If your ultimate goal is PMP, just prep for a month and go do it. It's that simple, right? Now, if the question is, does someone who have a certified Scrum Master certification have a little bit of an advantage, whether now or whether 2 months ago? Yeah, absolutely. Because since 2021, when the exam changed, it had been more agile. So obviously anyone that has a little bit more Scrum inclination will have an advantage. But I wouldn't advise anyone to just go get a Scrum Master certification or, a CSM or an ACP because they're trying to take the PMP. No, just focus, on a good PMP training course like the Project Management Masterclass.com course. It'll get you whipped in shape, and you won't have to do all this other stuff. Another misconception about the PMBOK Guide 7th edition is that it has a lot of Agile. That's not true. In fact, if you search for the word Agile, you won't find it a whole lot of times in the Agile, the 7th edition. You'll find a lot of that in the Agile Practice Guide, but in the 7th edition, you won't. And that's why PMI, they tell you that this exam isn't based on just one book. See, it's based on a plethora of information. All right, so I hope that answers the question. Arman, thank you very much for your question. What does it mean by PMI? So that means Project Management Institute, right? You said, I think you're asking, what does PMI mean? PMI say, however, before any validated item or exam item is added to the exam, there is a very rigorous and thorough review and field test cycle. This process takes multiple months. So that's a good question, Arman. I wish I could put your question up on the screen just so that everybody can see it. For those of you that are just joining, if you go into the chat, you can see some of the questions that our friends are chatting in here. And this one from Arman is really asking, what does PMI mean when they say all this stuff? And it's a very valid question. So all PMI is saying is before they release any items into the exam, they've been rigorously tested, and they've tested them for months. And that's why the current exam, as it is today and as it has been, always has what we call pre-test questions. And the pre-test questions enable PMI test out how those new questions would be in the eyes of a new someone coming into the exam. So they have some very good data to show them if that is a question to do, that is a question to release, or if that is not such a good idea to release as a question. Okay, so that's what the PMI means by that. I think you might be referring to probably some additional material that PMI have put out regarding the exam, trying to calm people down. Yes, absolutely. That is correct. All right, let's see if there are any other questions here. Anything else? Here in the chat, we have Arman asking, if I am going to take the PMP exam in January 2022, 7th edition is one of the references, or 6th edition prevails. No, what PMI is telling you is the 7th edition is now the reference. That is what they mean by that, Arman. All right, still in the chat, Asghar says, Arman, these words are confusing me as well. Does it mean right now 7th edition will not affect the exam? No, what you're reading, Asghar, is stuff that had been around for a while. So yeah, the seventh edition will impact, and when I say will impact, I mean the material in the seventh that is not in other places, you can expect to find it on the exam. And I covered this in a previous video where I talk about there is stuff in the seventh that you can find on the exam already. So just because it's in the seventh edition doesn't mean it's new. Like all that stuff about Hersey and Blanchard, the situational leadership model, there's a lot of stuff that has been around project management circles for eons. And even though it's appearing in the seventh edition for the first time, it does not mean it is new to the PMP exam. Like this time around, they went deeper into organizational theory. It's already been on the exam. The whole topic of organizational theory, Maslow's, McGregor's, Herzberg's, and all that stuff. But they came out a little bit more overtly in the seventh edition. That's not to say the material is entirely new. Okay. Mary Jane says, will this replay? Yes, this material will replay over and over again, so folks are aware of it to give it better visibility. That's really it. That's why we do these lives, because people don't get visibility as much if it's just posted, but they get more visibility of it with lives. All right, if you have a question right now, and just to timestamp this is 5:16. Wait, hang on a second. 6:16. I always get my ESTs mixed up. 6:16 EST, 3:16 PST. So if you have any questions right about now, feel free to put them in the comments and I will answer them as they come. Any questions right now? Questions or concerns? All right. In the absence of questions, we will continue rolling ahead. And but right now, talking about the stakeholder agile zone. One of the things we do in the hybridprojectmanagement.com course is actually go over the agile component for every domain and every principle, so that it makes the course very unique. So we're going back to discuss this domain, the agile zone, as an example. All right, so let's get back into it. How they should be involved in understanding what value is. We talk about the INVEST acronym. Well, the value component, it's situational. It's based on perspective. It's based on the product owner. It's also based